You know what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, man, you got sent a lot of clips. You got sent a lot of clips, and I think you even like prefaced the whole conversation, right? There are a lot of people trying to farm right now, trying to find the worst excerpts of a. I think my entire react to your guys' conversation was maybe like 2+ hours. You got a lot of people digging through that entire thing, right? Trying to find the worst out of context clips possible, or not enough background information for why the conversation is getting there, and then making 30-second clips out of that.
Okay.
So
all
I'm
right.
happy to explain everything and anything.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm ready.
So I think the first clip that you watched, right? That the part about like the dog walking.
Yep.
Yeah, so happy to explain that one.
Okay.
So the point that Pokey was making, right, is that HSR was on a good path, and the reasoning that he gave was basically you can start a new account, just pull the Herta, and then say fuck you or ignore all of the older banners. And so a new player's in a great spot. And so my viewpoint of that was, how is that an example of the game being on a good path? And why is that the example that he's bringing up when it literally is just fucking every single returning or veteran player in the ass completely? Right? And I was like, how is that the reasoning for the game being on a good path? And me not seeing you kind of like dig into that context or dig into that reasoning was what I found to be kind of like that big L, that big miss in the conversation. And when Pokey was just like, I guess, going through with that reasoning, and then it was sort of like accepted, that's where it was just like, I'm like, that's where I think a lot of people are like, why aren't you like pushing back more on that reasoning?
So one thing. So I went into that call to address the tweet. Everything that I sought out was I don't give a fuck about anything else. I am here to see why the fuck my friend is schizoing the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
Don't put the blame on the players. Put the blame on the fucking company. Admit that he misspoke, and he did that. And he admitted that he was being
absolutely.
That was my objective. I accomplished my objective. Everything else, I'm gonna just let my homie talk, and I don't fucking care. Right?
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing. Like, if I'm going to McDonald's and my objective is to get a cheeseburger, when I get home and my girlfriend says, "You didn't get chicken nuggets, you're a fucking loser," it's like, well, that's not what I ordered.
Yeah, that wasn't my mission.
Exactly. I'll handle that when I want to handle that, but to be honest, I don't really fucking care. How about we get you and Mr. Pokey on call and we talk it out?
Absolutely, yeah, I'm down for it.
All right, let's do it. Easy. This makes it way. Let's go direct to the source.
Let's do it. Man's been talking mad shit about my MOC clears, but he don't see that I got 36 stars.
Great. All right, let's.
After 8 months, no progress on the account. We're 36 starring it.
All right, here we go. I guess there's no.
Guess I don't know how to play the game.
Okay, here we go. Oh my god. Round 4, here we go. Guys, are we ever getting to the Woo-Wah main story? Here we go, man. All right.
Mr. Bobby, you have been on my ass for the past 3 days. Is there anything I can do for you, buddy?
Go ahead, Bobby. Bobby Lee, go ahead.
So Pokey, what's up with all those clips about my blade clear? Is that the only clip you wanted to take from my 2-hour play session?
No. I was literally there. I was literally there watching the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I actually didn't know the context where before this blade clip, you were mad shit talking me, my chat for like pretty good 2 or 3 days, and you never once told me about it. So you wanna say something to my face?
Yeah, I'm saying that your takes regarding power creep, blaming it on the players, it possibly is one of the most elitist takes I've ever heard.
I didn't blame it on the players, and the only reason you would think that is because you have no idea what you're saying. Especially for Honkai style.
Well, this is the thing. I think going ahead and framing it that way, given that you know that pretty much everybody in Gacha Gaming took your tweet that way, is kind of, I think, where one of the problems is.
That's because they don't even understand what's going on at first. I would have to explain it first.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If your tweet
every single time I talk to Tectone or talk to Gacha Smack or any of the players that watch the videos, they understand where I'm coming from. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here still like chilling with both Tech and Gacha Smack because they know I am right.
Well, this is the thing. Let me do my summary of what I believe your arguments are, and you let me know where the big holes are.
Sure.
And so your tweet basically said power creep is a problem for the players if they allow it to happen through not pulling correctly. That's kind of like a better version of the tweet, right?
Not just that, but
by not pulling or investing properly. That's when
Sure.
power creep becomes a problem for the players.
Sure.
And so one of the ways that a player, right, I think based off a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing from you, is one of the best ways that a player can mitigate that power creep problem is by continually pulling on new banners and new characters and new light cones to shore up those weaknesses, shore up the existing power creep that's easily identifiable within the 1.0 to 1. I think like 7x roster at basically every DPS before Ron May. And if you don't pull, then that is basically you allowing power creep to become a problem.
No. Why would that allow power creep to be a problem?
So if you're saying, so basically, from what I heard, right, power creep isn't a problem if you don't pull. You can still make power creep, you can still mitigate power creep without pulling the new characters. Is that?
You can mitigate power creep by making the best use of what you have in your account at the time. So for example, like a free-to-play, I literally just hopped onto a free-to-play account. He had a lot of pulling difficulties because he can't keep up with all these new banners. But the thing is, he still pulled based on what available information he had. Which is why there was this whole argument about whether a player has foresight, especially in the past, because they don't know what's happening in the future, right? They don't know what's gonna drop, they don't know what's run made, they don't know what's super break. So they just make use of what information they have and pull the units. So after pulling those units, especially free play, you can't just keep pulling the new thing and new thing. So in order to make power creep not be a problem, they need to know how to best make use of the resources that they have. And the people that have a problem with this is generally, from what I've seen, is that they want to pull everything just for the sake of clearing it easier at that point of time. They don't really care about making their account better. It's just for the sake of, oh, the shiniest new DPS, Boot Hero looks super good, Union looks super good, and afterwards, it just keep pulling E0s, 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 and it makes the account worse and worse, especially if they ski supports. Or the other hand is, like, okay, sorry, the one last thing. One last thing is, all these new DPS, it is easier to play in the brand new endgame content because they specifically tailor the endgame content for the new units. So a player that keeps pulling these new units, they will feel that this is supposed to be the norm because that is like the power they get. When in reality, when like this environment rotates away, every single like that unit is gonna drop down compared to their original strength, and they can't accept that. So they either keep pulling for the new stuff, or they just think, oh shit, my account's unplayable because it used to be like a 1 cycle, 0 cycle, and now I'm doing like 3, 4, 5. So that's how it goes about, yeah.
So let me go back to the original. I understand everything that you're saying. I don't think there's actually anything wrong with what you just said, but I don't think it answers the original question that I had. And the original question I had is, do you need to pull to mitigate power creep?
You don't need to pull every single time, but I would say you will want to pull supports.
But you have to pull.
For who? Because if you're someone that
one of the new characters, one of the high value new characters, you have to pull them. Otherwise, you will not be able to keep up with the content.
For supports, yeah, I would say so.
So it's mandatory that you have to pull to keep up with the end game.
Or supports, sure.
Okay, so you have to pull the new limited characters to clear the end game.
For supports, sure.
Okay, that's kind of the crux of the argument, right? The idea is that you have to pull, otherwise you will not be able to clear the end game. You use a roster from 1.x, right? Characters are 1.x. I use a Ron May, Blade, Luocha, Bronya team, and it's not going to clear the content. There's no chance.
It will clear the content. There is chance. You just don't know how to play it. And it's okay with that. Because you haven't been playing the game for 8 months. It's fine. I just don't understand why you keep trying to self-insert and think that you know about HSR meta when you legit have not played the game for 8 months. But it's like me trying to talk about Watering Waves power creep in the middle tower, or like they made it into more elemental resistance, when technically it is like worse, right? It used to be elemental neutral and now it's worse. But you don't see me trying to talk about that because I know I'm not that in depth with regards to Watering Wave knowledge. You have proved that you can do it with GEN, you can do it with Carlola, and there's a lot of stuff. So technically, like, it's really still a lane, bro. It's like, that's pretty much all it is, yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I don't see how the reasoning is lame here, right? Like, let's just say you're using a Jing Liu team, right? On side 2 of this MOC.
Sure.
Are there any clears with a Jing Liu team on that side without using Sunday?
A lot, bro. You don't need Sunday with Jing Liu. You can literally run Spargo, you run Robin, you can run Rame, you run Pella. There's so many. You just have no idea because you're so used to the fact that all these clears that are using all of the meta characters. It is more rare. Granted, it is more rare, right? They definitely have to like make a lot more. You know how to play the game. You know how to which speed you want to tune. How do you want to use the units? but it doesn't mean that they're unviable. And that's kind of the whole thing, right? Like, you can't really have both things at the same time. You can't just expect to have the easiest clear every single time while you're not pulling for, all these brand new units. If you don't want to pull for brand new units,
it's
you
not even
gotta
about
put more
having
effort.
an easy. It's not even about having an easy clear though. It's about the fact that your clears are like actually either extremely like crit fishy. You need to have like the most ridiculously invested characters, like basically like perfect relics on these characters. Like the whole farming journey to get there to even have a chance with the 1.x roster. I still don't really buy a Bronya Jing Liu Ron Mei team or like clearing, to be honest, inside too, just because the damage is absurdly low. And I think one of the examples that you brought up on the call with Tectone, I think really just paints it in a better light, where you directly talk about how follow-up attack teams, ones with like Fei Zhao, Fart, those have similar performance to Dot in the current MOC. They're clearing at similar times.
Very, very similarly, especially.
Yeah, okay. And so this is clearly an MOC that's focused on AoE damage. That's focused on being able to damage all the trotters at once and then inflict that damage on kill on the bosses.
Okay, yes.
And so a single target team that specializes in single target literally has a better or, really, really, really comparable clear time to a team focused on AoE content in an AoE focused MOC. And they're clearing it comfortably in 5 cycles. And this is what I mean by the power creep and the level being so ridiculously high, where if you just simply had chosen to invest in Black Swan instead of Topaz, you're just fucked. And you never knew, you're just fucked. And now, like, this Fart team, right, suddenly has this absurdly high level of performance, regardless of the content type. You talk about the environment, you talk about the blessing, but why is the single target team doing the same or better in AoE-focused content than the AoE team?
Okay, do you know why?
And that makes the Fart team, right, the single target team, actually the best and wisest investment a player can make. And it's just like, okay, you decide not to pull them, so now you're going to get fucked. It's the same thing with Super Break, where the Super Break is so absurdly broken, and we're like, I literally pulled a Fugue right off the bat, a Fug You right off the bat, leveled her talents to level 6, her skill to level 6, and then just autoed it and got it in like 4 cycles with a Firefly that was half built.
Go ahead, Mr. Bugger.
And that's like,
hold on, give me a sec. Go ahead, Mr. Bugger.
Yeah, the reason why Fart team is so strong is literally because of Robin. You try running Fei Xiao without Robin, I guarantee you the performance is gonna be way, 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 way worse. But all of a sudden, because it's a Fart team, just because they use Robin, suddenly it's valid. When all the other old supports, the old DPS, if they were to use Robin, it's suddenly a Robin showcase. If Scylla were to use Robin, it's a Robin showcase. But if Fei Xiao were to use Robin, it's somehow a Fei Xiao query, which literally does not make sense because the entire premise of Honkai Star Rail is Honkai support rail. You base your team around the supports you pull, so to condemn old players for pulling for new supports to make their old team stronger, it doesn't make sense. Like, it legit doesn't make sense.
But it does.
And also, I sent a picture in the group.
Content is so heavily tailored around you having the new support, and if you don't have them, then you just don't get to clear. Even if you have Fei Zhao, even if you have Topaz.
I sent a picture in the group within the 3 of us. That's 2 teams where Jing Liu cleared using Bronya, Ranmei, Gallagher, and Bronya, Ranmei, Robin, Luocha. None of them are Sunday, Spark, and all that kind of stuff. But it is not even like impossible because there will always be ways to make it happen. It just depends on how difficult you want it to be. It is kind of like playing Elden Ring. Do you want to go in with like no armor and no summons, or do you want to go in with summons and all the armor and everything? Right. So it really depends on the player, and it's really not.
Are those
tight?
Yeah, I'm just wondering. In the image that you linked, are those all E0 characters without light cones?
Yep. It's E0 as well. Yep. I think it's
okay. So they all have light cones.
Sarah, you want to clarify on that? Because Sarah is the one that sent me that.
They don't know about the light cones. They're not sure.
It's like to S1 or without the light cone.
So, I mean, I think that's a big differentiator, right?
Okay, but the thing is, it's the equivalent of you not pulling for anything new, and you're making use of these units at these levels of investment.
Well,
so the counterpoint is, if you were to pull for a new unit and you clear better, you are spending like 70, 80 pulls. You know what I'm saying? So if you were to not spend that 70, 80 pulls, you clear slower, which is, I don't see there's anything wrong with that.
I don't even think it's about clearing slower. I think it's just not even being able to clear in the first place is more so the problem. Where you will not get your 3 stars, and I know it's like 80 jades or whatever, but it's literally like you're fighting against AI in the MOC, right? Like, it's just this self-imposed AI that the devs have designed and set the max HP limits for. And if you're not pulling on the newest character, and I guess they're light cone too, you don't get to clear with your older members of the roster who, and it does, all of the investment that you put into them. And it's like, this is the comparison, right? That I think, and kind of like the reason for that whole why Genshin is better than Star Rail clip, also clipped out of context because there's none of the backing information. In Genshin Impact, you literally can use teams from 1.0 international, teams from 1.0, and still clear the abyss 4 or 5 years later.
Let me make this take 3 hours less. So, Mr. Pokey, I believe your viewpoint is, correct me if I'm wrong, after our discussion, that once again, let me know if I'm wrong at all. Your viewpoint is that Honkai Star Rail does have a power creep issue, but it can be circumvented by the players if they play properly and invest properly.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And then Bobby Lee, your viewpoint is that it cannot be circumvented.
I'm saying that I agree with Pokey in terms of how it can be circumvented. I think the fact that you're forced to pull characters and their light cone to make older members of your roster usable.
Yep.
I think that's awful for the game. I think that's awful for players that are veterans. I think that's awful for people who have invested prior time into the title. And to say again that the game is on a good path because you can just ignore all of the older banners, just pull the newest, shiniest, highest damaging stuff and say fuck you to all the older banners. I think that's such a out of touch take.
Okay. Now, so what, Mr. Pokey, do you agree or disagree with what Santonas is saying right now?
The thing is, you don't need it. And I feel that when you are pulling for a support, you're not necessarily just pulling a support as if they have to be paired only with your old units. Because, for example, if you pull a unit like Rame or if you pull a unit like Robin, it's not just for you to use with Stella. You can literally use this with almost every single unit in Honkai Star Rail. And the thing with Honkai Star Rail is, as long as you have this foundation of supports, you can make a lot of different things work, which is kind of like the beauty of it, in my opinion. And I kind of want to just address this whole Genshin and Star Rail thing. Well, I'm not sure if it's true that you can still use 1.0 because I don't really play Genshin that much, but I do believe that a core majority of why Star Rail is so fixated on like your team comps is because it is a turn-based team building game where team building is, I would say, contributes to 80% of your success. If you build the right team, the difference between using the fun button and like manually is very little. Whereas for games like Genshin, Zenless Zone Zero, Warring Waves, all that kind of stuff, when you go in with these characters, you can still use like perfect dodge, Kara cancel, negative edge to increase your damage or like reduce the damage. But in Star Rail, that's not possible, which is why I feel that in Star Rail specifically, these units would be more important in that team building compared to, Genshin Impact.
So let me bring up an example from 1.x.
Sure.
Do you remember a team where you were able to run Jing Liu and Blade in the same team and then synergize Jing Liu's HP loss with Blade's follow-up counter? And that was a team that was comfortably clearing content and was fun to use and didn't lean into like this whole team building angle where you have to like line up specific characters that perfectly match up with each other, like Super Break or follow-up. And that Jing Liu Blade team was still usable and cleared content pretty competitively. That's gone now. There's none of that. You literally listed like an example of like 2 Jing Liu teams where it's like I guess those are like the most free to play ones available. But you just use like Sunday and then like Robin and then a sustain, and then that's kind of like the only thing you can use that's reasonably going to clear and doesn't get like absolutely fucking destroyed. And the thing is, it's just like you could sub in characters like Pella instead of Ron May. You could do like all of these things. You had so much more diversity in team building in 1.x of Honkai Star Rail, and the game was so much more fucking fun because you could do so many different things in the end game. And now it's like, okay, now you have to like match up, instead of matching up colors for the weaknesses, it's matching up fucking taglines in the character kits where it's like the follow-up goes with the follow-up, the super break goes with the break, and like if you don't do that, now you're like in line for some of the shittiest clears possible.
Do you agree?
And that's not fun.
Yeah, do you agree or disagree, Mr. Buggy?
Okay, I heavily disagree because Blade Jing Liu is technically it is supposed to be like a kind of a meme comp. It's not like quote unquote meta. And the reason why a lot of these old comps back in the days it worked is because there was nothing much to expand Honkai Star Rail. Because what you really had back then was basically your baseline supports, right? Your Team Impella, Bronya, there was no Rame, there was none of that. But the moment they push out for all these different comps, that's when you start to, focus a little bit more into that. And the reason why I say elemental is still very important is this, for example, like Jing Liu, right? Like Jing Liu has not been good, and everyone say Jing Liu is like power crab, shared on by Akron. But what she actually really just needed was an environment that fits Jingliu. Like this current Ice Week stage, and all of a sudden she's almost clearing a little bit, if not like at the same level as Aircron. So I do think that at a fundamental baseline, it's heavily dependent on the environment that determines if your unit Honkai Star is going to be.
But what about the teams that
meta or
don't
not.
give a fuck about the environment because they're just so broken overtuned that the damage ramped up so high in the game, starting with like 2.x, where again you just play fart in the AOE focused MOC and get the same clear time as an AOE team. You play Super Break whenever the fuck you want, and then you just straight up destroy the entire. You just destroy the MOC regardless of blessing. It's like those teams are direct counterpoints to this whole environment thing. And you're saying that the 1.x characters, they have to have like the right environment, literally like one blessing every couple of fucking weeks where they're actually usable. And then you have these fart and fall and super break teams where you can just use them wherever the fuck you want, regardless of the blessing, because they're just that overtuned in the damage department.
Okay, but the main reason for that is really because, not specifically for that DPS, it's because of these supports. And I said it because you keep drawing a comparison of like how you want to measure like DPS compared to like a value of support. But when in reality,
you're using the same support in the 1.x with the 1.x
Nope.
DPS characters.
Babin changed a lot. Rame changed a lot. The way Super Break works, it is literally with a free unit, which is Harmony MC. Everybody has that. You don't need Fugue to pull for Super Break. And I will 100% admit, supports are what solidifies how you play Honkai Star. But the thing is, almost every single play Honkai Star, they pull for supports. Rame has almost a 90% ownership rate. Robin is basically catching up, and she has like 3 reruns by now. And the same thing is probably going to be happening. We are getting Remembrance MC, we have Harmony MC. And I would 100% agree, supports is what defines this. But it's not your DPS. Back then, there was a lot of different ways they can kind of use, fun teams like Jingliu Blade, all these DPS. But back then, we also didn't have these meta-defining supports. So yeah.
And so I guess this is, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure what the point is here other than supports are absurdly broken in the game and they forced archetypes by amplifying damage so much across teams that they have synergy with, right? Ron May in a Super Break team is going to do a lot more than Ron May in a Jingliu or Blade team, right? 1000%. And so they have all of these ridiculously amplifying team damage effects that have raised the damage ceiling in the game so high that like other DPS characters are struggling to keep up. And you know, you could say it's the supports, but the fact of the matter is that the damage in the game is so much higher than it was in 1.x, that the 1.x characters need ridiculous amounts of investment from somewhere on the new limited roster to even have a chance. And then they additionally have to have both a weakness and an MOC blessing that synergizes with them. Otherwise, there's no chance at all in the first place. Right, that's why Jingliu had a fucking 99 cycle, because she was literally never used because she could not clear in the past MOCs. And so now that she actually has a chance, it also turns out you need ridiculous levels of investment, as well as like one of the new limited supports to, again, like one of the broken supports that's just more broken in the other teams that they're made for, to even have a chance to clear. And that's what feels fucking bad. That's what feels like shit to play. And that's why people complain so much about the power creep in the game.
Okay, I feel like you are kind of addressing two different kinds of people, because let's just assume that people that want to clear endgame, they probably care about Honkai Star meta, and they are doing their absolute best to make their teams improve. Okay, is that fair to say?
Yeah, the people that are complaining about not being able to clear are probably the ones that want to clear, yeah.
Right. And people that do want to clear Honkai Star, they would know the importance of a support, especially in Honkai Star Rail, much more compared to any of these other games. So I feel like this argument where like pulling for support is a huge investment, or now I have to put a brand new support and it's like super expensive compared to last time when I didn't need my support, it doesn't really hold up, because they would inherently know how valuable this support is to their account. And it's not like this support is selling like 2 times the price or 3 times the price of a normal DPS. It is the exact same price. So if we are addressing the normal player base which care about the Honkai style meta as well as clearing the endgame, they would definitely go pull the supports. The other hand is if they don't care about meta, right? If they want to just pull for whoever they want, then yeah, sure, they're absolutely gonna be having a more difficult time, right? Last time they want to use Jingliu Blade, nowadays they want to try the same thing, it's probably gonna be more difficult. But at the same time, you can't really have your cake and eat it, right? Like you can't just expect to be a casual. Okay, like is the example of I want to play Wild Waves and just have no idea what's going on. I can't expect myself to get 3 stars, very like just given for free, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, the having your cake and eating it too in the Wuthering Waves situation is simply learning how your team rotates, how to stack up buffs, how to speed up your rotations, you know, using building up Concerto in different ways. You don't have to fucking spend money or spend your pulls to make that happen.
Would
it's
you
literally
run
just, it's literally
Baichu
just
over
like get
Shorekeeper?
better at the game, and you'll make it happen.
Would you run Baichu over Shorekeeper then?
You can.
You can,
And it'll
right?
work.
But it's a lot more uncomfortable. And
That's
that is just for Watering Waves. And Watering
yeah,
Waves is already
but
a
but
game.
the thing is, you can still clear.
Yeah, but the thing is, Watering Waves is a game where you have a lot more freedom of expression, right? You can dodge more, you can parry more, you can hit more. But Honkai Star doesn't really allow you for that. And people know how important it is for support to their account. So this group of people they are addressing, I feel like it's such a small minority that it's just not that deep. I don't think people are having issues because of lack of support. They are having issues because they can't expect to chase up to the DPS. That's the main problem.
So
it's like having someone that has no Ramen or Robin is very low, man. Yeah.
So just to chime in real quick, so Santos, are you saying that Wuthering Waves does not have a power creep issue?
I don't think it has a power creep issue in
Okay.
terms of how the main DPSs are performing. I think that like Shorekeeper as the first limited support is a lot better than Baija, but she does not power creep Arena at all.
Okay, so would you say that a character in Wuthering Waves does not have to pull for like on their banners?
There's not a lot of must pulls in the game. Shorekeeper is probably like the #1 must pull just because Baija, she operates, she works, but she feels like shit to play.
I
and
think
Shorekeeper just feels a lot better.
I think it's very important to note that there has not been a second 4-star healer being introduced to the game yet. Am I wrong?
They do have one. It's
Who's it?
Yohu.
Yohu? Anybody want to play that child?
Spectra Rover is also a healer.
Spectra Rover's a healer.
Yeah. So
I kinda wanna just-
Wait, hold the fuck up. How the fuck do you heal a Spectra Rover?
Yeah, their S5 grants a team-wide healing buff that synergizes with the rejuvenating low set.
Is that now?
And so-
Okay, and that's now that was now available in the game
that was available since 1.0
since 1.0. Why has nobody ever talked about that?
because people didn't read the kits.
Very fair. So let me get this right. So you run them with a specific set, and that set gives them healing capabilities.
No, they have healing capabilities built in, and the set allows them to buff the team with their built-in healing.
And how much does it heal for?
It scales off of their attack, and so if you build them as a healer, you can get actually quite decent sustain out of them. But obviously,
Compare their
they can also-
viability to Shorekeeper. In terms of healing.
they're definitely not as good as Shorekeeper.
Give me like
They're probably like if Shorekeeper's like a 10 out of 10, they're probably like a 4 to 5.
okay.
They're like the budget of the budget option. If you don't really have anything else to use.
Yeah, I will say that there are many people. I think it's pretty fair to acknowledge there may be, once again, like Mr. Pokey saying, you could use Pela. Nobody wants to fucking use a Pela. I don't think anybody wants to use a Baija or a Spectro Healing Rover. I actually know quite a lot of people who are like, I'm gonna wait till Shorekeeper gets a rerun to play the fucking game because you do need a couple of healers. But yeah, I mean, I think Wuthering Waves is in a much better spot than HSR. However, its lifespan is a lot shorter. I still think it's on a good trajectory, but I could see eventually maybe needing the new units, kind of like PGR. I think the new units are probably a lot better than the pre-existing ones. But yeah, I think it's kind of hard to compare Wuthering Waves game state to HSR because like the skill ceiling and the skill floor is so different. Because in Wuthering Waves, and this is to your point, you can make up for having bad units on Wuthering Waves. On HSR,
Absolutely.
you really can't as much because the difference between casual play and max play isn't as big as it is in Wuthering Waves. But I would say, I think we can all agree, chat, that the game feels much better if you have a Varina and a Shorekeeper.
Absolutely, and there's
great.
no denying that at all, right? Shorekeeper makes the game feel a lot better to play, especially with her crit. She can make up for your DPSs not being as built and your supports as well.
Yep.
But one thing I want to keep in mind, especially when it comes to like the buffing and the support conversation, is that Wuba has already set a baseline for their buffing. Their 5-star limited buffers, or sub DPSs like Yinlin and Jeja, they all have like a flat 20% attribute and then 25% damage type bonus. And I think that's what they're just going to stick with for the lifetime of the game. And the power creep occurs when those numbers just go up higher than what they are. But they've already released every sub DPS they've released. It just goes by that baseline. And now they're balancing the character kits. They're balancing all of the like damage potential in the game around that. And they've set a standard.
Or like buffed. Because they're balanced.
What do you mean by nerfed or buffed?
No, because you said they got balanced, right?
Yeah, they're balanced around having like that basically 45% in the best case scenario, 25% if it's like an off biz team, 20% if it's off in like an even more off biz team, and then it's just that's the baseline that they set with Yinlin and Jeja. I'm assuming every sub DPS in the future is going to follow that sort of cadence. And so like they're making sure that like certain characters aren't going to be like ridiculous must pulls like the Robins, like the Ron Mays, where their kits are just so, I guess, like convoluted in their bonuses and how they like work and like unique in a sense, where they just go straight out of whack, right? In the most synergistic lineups possible, while you know that there's a ceiling in Wuthering Waves, and it makes sense. And obviously more of the differentiations in how you're actually doing the damage.
Well,
they can keep the buff simple.
Let's still try to laser focus here on Honkai Star Rail. Just wanted to address that real quick. So it sounds to me like, and let me know if I'm wrong here, Mr. Boogie. Do you still think the 1.0 characters can still clear the current content?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Why don't we try it?
With 1.0 characters.
Yeah, do you want to do that?
I've got a lineup. I've got lineups ready to go because obviously I haven't played for 8 months. So I've got 1.0 lineups ready to go, and they're ready to get fucking destroyed.
Because, like, I mean, if you just clear it with 1.0 units, you pretty much just win.
Right, absolutely.
You want to try it?
So I log into Tentone's account.
Yeah, do you want to do
that?
that?
If you want to log into my account and give it a spin, I'm down, dude.
Sure, what does the account have?
Okay, we got a fight!
So, just as a bit of a warning, and this might hurt the point you're trying to make, my Ron May is E1, and my Blade is E2.
Okay, then, even if I clear it, then what's the point, though? Okay, I think a better point is, I literally just did a clear today, this stream, with a complete free-to-play account, 10 cycles, Super Break first half, Scylla second half. If you want to use it as a comparison.
So I'm saying like 1.0 roster on both sides.
Okay, but the thing is, you get that unit for free given to you.
But Super Break doesn't work without 2.0.
Okay, the thing is, the reason why this is not even a logical consumption of free to play is because they're free to play. They can't even pull both Scylla and Jingyuan at the same time. So the guy made the best use of what he had at the time, which is he put Scylla, and then eventually got a Runmei, and now he got Firefly for his Super Break. So that is the most accurate representation of a free-to-play account. Because no free-to-play account
we're not talking about free-to-play versus like pay-to-win players. We're talking about the power creep of the 1.0 rosters. So using 2.0 characters is completely besides the point.
Right, but the thing is, you can still clear with your 1.0 roster.
If you're using a 2.0 team on the other side.
Which is given to you for free.
Make up for the shitty performance of the 1.0 team. Because wasn't it 7 cycles for Scylla and then
do you not feel
3 cycles for Super Break? And so basically,
do you not feel this disingenuous? Because the guy doesn't have access to units like Robin. He can't pull for both Scylla and Jingyuan because he is clearly a free to play. So how the hell is a free to play player gonna have a double 1.0 roster and you don't expect a free to play to run Super Break? Isn't that disingenuous? It's kind of like expecting Warrior Wave players to not run.
We're talking about the power creep in the game, not about the state of like a free-to-play account. It's like that's the thing. A free-to-play is going to have different 1.0 characters. That every free-to-play is going to have different 1.0 characters. And the idea is that regardless of the characters that they have, they're going to have such a shit time clearing that they need to be, like Tectone said, dragged over the finish line either by a best-in-slot new limited support or incredible performance by one of the ridiculously broken meta teams like Super Break or Follow Up.
Okay, so what do you think is the
just have to mitigate the
the
shit performance of a 1.0 team by having either a broken 2.0 team that just bulldozes the content?
Here, let Mr. Buggy get in here real quick. What were you saying, Mr. Buggy?
No, I'm just saying, like, what's the point of this if we are not arguing for the people they are suffering probably, which is essentially the free-to-play players, because they cannot keep up. And then we deny a representation of an actual free-to-play account, and that's how their account looks like. So asking for a double 1.0 clear, you're basically asking the guy to not be a free-to-play. And if you want to do that, you will need to have more investments, right? You will need to have more supports. So you are kind of like...
So let me try to...
Not about free-to-play.
Let me try to cure this real quick. So it sounds to me like St. Tontas is saying the difference in power between 3.0 nearing characters compared to 1.0 characters is very different. They're much stronger. And what Mr. Pokey is saying is that why does that matter when none of those players actually exist? Would that be fair? Because you're saying that, like, well, free to play wouldn't use those characters. There's free shit now that we can just blow up the content. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Pokey?
Yeah, a free to play wouldn't just use pure 1.0 team. It doesn't exist. It doesn't make sense.
So
especially a free to play that cares about endgame.
I'm a player that quit after pulling Black Swan and Sparkle. and now I just
Okay.
came back to the game. But let's just say I previously whaled and have everybody in 1.0, but I quit after Black Swan and Sparkle. What do I do?
You slowly get back in then.
So I'm fucked.
I mean, nobody's.
I don't get to do the end game.
Is that if I quit Warrior for 6 months, do I expect a clear 3-star tower instantly?
If your characters were fully built and your roster was fully built, yeah, you would.
I mean, it's gonna be a much more difficult time. Would you agree?
Probably not. No, because you still use the same Gion team from literally the launch of the game, and it still bulldozes the content.
Okay, I would love to quit Warrior for 6 months, but I genuinely actually like the combat, so I'm not gonna do that. But we could see how this cooks.
I'm saying people are running the same exact Gion team from 1.0, Verena, Gion, Mortifi, and they're getting like absurd clears in the end game right now. It's destroying the game.
What's absurd clears?
Like it's very competitive. It's like top level performance compared to other.
Or like the middle tower.
Teams. With the newest characters, yeah.
But isn't the middle tower catered for Jian? Because it's like coordinate attacks.
It's the left or right tower too. He's bulldozing those as well.
Here, let's really focus on Honkai Star Rail here, and I really want to boil this down because I think that both of you guys. This is a very nuanced topic, guys. I'm sure we can all agree it's a very nuanced topic. I think that both you guys have some points. I do. I think one side is a little bit tipped over the other, but I really think what we should be talking about is let's talk about this. Saint Tontas, with your viewpoint, what issue do you think that is going to cause that needs to be circumvented? What do you think the issue is with your perspective, Honkai Star Rail's game state?
The absurd damage inflation that started with Acheron. There was absolutely no reason why damage limits and damage ceilings in the game had to get so fucking high with the release of that character. And what it's done is just set a new standard for every single DPS and every single team that's being applied unilaterally across endgame content and makes it feel like absolutely dog shit to play unless you're pulling for the newest characters. That's the huge problem, and it's like... And one of the statements that you made on Pokey on your call with Smack Pokey was that like you don't think the power creep in the game is fine, and because you can clear 3 stars with the old characters, but it's just that to me was just such an odd statement to make when the framing of these 1.0 characters is so fucking bad. And it started with Acheron, and the damage ceiling has only gotten higher since, and it's just like it's so ridiculous, and everyone can see that it's absolutely ridiculous who's been there firsthand to witness it. And it's turned the game for a lot of players. It's made a lot of their roster, anything that they've invested, all their Eidolons, Lycones, Relic time, it just feels like a complete fucking waste. And that feels fucking bad.
If they are casual, sure.
It's not even casuals, it's veterans that pulled Blade, that pulled Jing Liu, that pulled...
If they are
like,
veterans, they would have known the value of a support, and they would have put support, and then they would know the inherent differences between, because if you want to feel the power of a new DPS, you're spending pools, right? Like you are basically spending pools to feel that. But if you don't spend that pool, you just don't feel it, but you still clear anyway, and you save all that summon.
So let me
so
ask,
why would that be a problem?
Let me ask.
By the way, I'm not trying to debate if power creep is a thing. By the way, I hope that this is not a topic of contention. Like I 100% agree, power creep is a thing. But the thing is, it is not a problem for you. It is the point I'm getting at.
I guess this is the thing. I'm debating more so the point that you think power creep's in a good spot, and that Honkai Star Rail has been managing it well, when all it's done is invalidate literally every DPS release in 1.0, and requires, and again, like in your own words, right, requires the right environment, requires the right weakness, requires the right support and investment to clear. And that's such a shitty position for a character to be in, that you spent time or money investing in the Lycone or the Eidolons for and the Relic sets for, where, again, you need all these fucking specialized conditions, all the stars to align for them to even have a chance. And then you have these other damage-inflated teams that have been intentionally designed to raise the ceilings, usable anywhere without a second thought. That's the problem.
I got the exact thing I said to just met, which is this. Let's just say these players, like these 1.0 old players, not new players, old players, let's just say they had the foresight. They had the foresight of Acheron, they had the foresight of like Super Braid, they had the foresight of version 3. Do you not feel that them pulling for old units back then would have still given them that fun? Because it's the feeling of fun, right?
So why does your old fun have to negate the new fun? Just because you had fun in the past, you don't get to have fun with the characters now?
If you didn't pull for that old units fun, and you just saved all the way, you are essentially technically future-proofing your account, right?
I get what you're saying.
Not putting,
If you didn't pull, right, you went on a no-pull account, you would have had a shit experience. And
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
pulling in the present, you have a good experience in the present. I'm saying, why does having a good experience in the past mean that you can't have a good one in the future with the character?
You can have a good one. It's just you need to manage the expectation, especially if you're a free player that wants to pull for everything.
But why did the damage have to get so high? Why are we supporting the damage ceilings going that high and just saying, well, you had your fun in the past, now pull all the new stuff or you don't get to have fun?
Because players are under this expectation that their units will always be the strongest, which is just not.
It's not even about being the strongest, it's about them being usable without
Okay,
pulling the
every
newest
single time when a
characters.
new DPS comes out, they will always be technically the strongest because that's how they sell it. Which
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
I also
absolutely.
point out, like on how Honkai style. Yeah, they made these environments, they made these new DPS come out, and they made them a lot stronger. And they want the players to feel that. They want players to feel FOMO. Oh my god, look at all these new units. They feel the FOMO. And that's how the power creep gets in the player. Which I 100% is, once again, it is predatory. It is bad. It is very bad. But the thing is, at the end of it all, it will still not be a problem for you, especially if you know, and we're talking about meta players, right? It wouldn't be a problem for them because if it would be, then no free to players or not even free to players, like casual meta players, they want to play the end game, will be clearing Honkai style end game right now. This group of people wouldn't exist. But the thing is, tons and tons of, okay, maybe not tons, but I've seen multiple free to plays. They can still do this because even though power creep exists, it's not a problem for their account. Which, back to the original tweet, this problem is caused by, okay, at this point, I've seen a lot of other sites, mainly from greed and stupidity. But yeah, sure.
It is a massive problem for your older DPS members on the roster. That's the thing, because
I mean, if you choose to not invest
from
in
your own words, you said the older DPS characters are only usable if the weakness and the blessing lines up, and that literally doesn't apply to the newest levels of DPS's release.
So let's provide a different perspective that a lot of people aren't talking about here. In case you guys don't know, I mean, obviously, I've been in the video game publishing industry for about 2 years now. I want to kind of break it down why developers do what they do for these units. And there is a reason why the unit that comes out later in gacha games, which are games designed to be predatory, man, guys, are we surprised that a gambling game's predatory? Oh, man, my jaw hit the floor. They really want to focus on the new player experience. So the thing is that there is two options, which are incomparables. Now, incomparables, I brought this up with Mr. Pokey, are units
I remember that part.
that do the same thing, roughly, but they do them in different circumstances. Because, you know, whether somebody does 100 damage by jumping or 100 damage by lasers, which one's better, jumping or lasers? It doesn't really fucking matter.
Whichever one you prefer.
Exactly. Whichever one you prefer. That is not the route that I think the majority of gacha games go. I think Genshin has this issue. I think Zenless has this issue. I mean, let's be real. Ellen Joe versus Miyabi. It's a pretty big fucking difference. And I would say I think there's a pretty big difference between Calcharo and Zhang Liao. Would you agree with that or no?
Calcharo actually outdamages him if played like they do in CN.
Yeah, so like if they play him
disgusting stuff
perfectly.
So it's yeah. So it's again like leaning more into like the skill thing versus like the just straight up having better multipliers, like you do in games like HSR.
Sure. I mean, I would say that the new player experience is probably very important. The characters being played casually, there's probably going to be a pretty big difference. And we get the fucking unit for free.
True.
If all the characters were good, it would make it very hard for new players to get into the game because then, well, now I need this character from 1.0. Now I need this character from 2.0. Now I need this character from 3.0. So I understand why they make the character so strong. Do I like it? No, not particularly. Obviously, I wish Silverwolf never existed. I wish elemental weakness was never ignored. I hate how Acheron can ignore that shit, how Boot Hill can ignore that shit, how Silverwolf can ignore that shit. And there's probably 4 other characters that I'm not even fucking remembering. But the way that it currently goes is there is a massive discrepancy between 1.0 and 3.0 units. I want to talk about now characters that I think are completely indefendable they are completely useless. And one of the big characters that comes to mind is Luocha. I think that character's entire existence is gone. I do. But I want to think, what are some of these characters that are power crept beyond belief to where they cannot be used? I would say he is one of them. And I think, Mr. Pug, I think you'd agree. That Luocha.
Sorry, wait. Yeah, I just want to talk one thing real quick. Okay, I think Zendo's also, I think you brought a lot, which is like all these new DPS, they do like a lot more than their old units to the point where you don't even need to feed their environment, right? They can just brute force, even if the environment is not made for them. Like, for example, you brought a facial argument, even it's technically like AoE, but she's still doing very good. The thing is, it's not really because it's the version 2 or even like the going to version 3 DPS. It's still because of supports. That's the thing. It's like,
and
Fei Xiao without Robin is way worse than Fei Xiao with Robin.
But Robin
and like
with
a
any other
Firefly without Rame is like it's way worse. So this argument, it literally applies to every single DPS, be it our version 1 or version 2.
But in a similar vein, right? Robin's best DPS is Fei Zhao.
That is honestly debatable.
Ron
Because you
May's
can
best
you can
DPS is Firefly or Rappa.
you use May best in slot for break essentially, yeah. But you can legit just use Robin for like pretty much every single team at this point. No, but okay, in any case, my point is this, right? The Honkai Star Rail's entire bet, it is tied to having these supports. And because Honkai Star Rail players, especially players that care about the endgame, they will know how valuable a support is to their account. Most of them would get these supports, even if they wanted to pull them. It's like Watering Waves, a value of a Shorekeeper. I'm sure Shorekeeper, you probably don't need her, right? You can use your Baizhi, but she makes life a lot easier. It is kind of like the same thing for Honky Starbucks. I would say because like games like Watering Waves, they have a lot more like exploration of skills. You can dodge on the counter, but Honkai Star you can't. So, yep. Is that fair? Or
I guess I'm not sure what we were arguing with that one.
no, I think you just place way too much emphasis on like the brand new DPS, but you downplay the significance of the support.
How about
you feel
this? Emphasis on the DPS support combo, where when the DPS and the support are combined together, their performance far exceeds anything else in the game.
It really depends.
So it's now
like,
instead
Robin,
of just one character being the source of power creep, it's now two. So I think it's actually worse.
what do you mean?
You now need to pull two of them to reach like the power levels that you want, versus like just the one versus just the support. Now you need two characters.
Or what do you mean like power levels? Like, are you talking about Robin or like what?
You want Robin and now the Fei Zhao and the follow-up attacker.
You don't need. No,
versus
you
just pulling
absolutely
Fei
do
Zhao.
not pull for Phase Out and all the follow-up attacker if you wanna pull for this thing. Because Robin can be used with everybody. Nobody thinks that way.
But her best performance
don't-
is in the follow-up attack teams.
No, she's. Oh my fucking god! No, she's not.
Wait, so Robin's best team isn't follow-up?
Robin is legit. She's about to be used in the future summon. She can be used in. She is technically DOT's best support right now. She is technically almost every single Creed DPS's best support. Arguably, even Sunday is really good.
But her
And-
best performing team is follow-up.
No, it is not just follow up. Okay, like how do you even measure best performance? Because if you want to talk about like clear cycle, like clear speed, which is technically like your end game, there's almost every single zero cycle would feature a Robin, and they are like beyond follow up. So I'm a little bit confused on where this is going.
I'm literally asking.
What he's saying
Robin's
is Robin's best team is follow up, but she can still be used with other teams. Is what Santondos is saying.
Her best team is not follow up though.
What is her best team?
What is her best team then?
Is that every single team that uses Robin will become the best team. So you would pull Robin for, if you are using any of these units, you will pull Robin. But you don't need to pull the quote-unquote follow-up just so that you want to reach this power ceiling or like power scaling or whatever. Because they are all getting zero cycles.
Understand that she's universal. She's one of the most broken characters in the game, but like she still has a team that she supports the most and gets the best performance in, right? And that team is follow-up because she literally has like the most synergy with follow-up teams.
I'm sorry, dude. I don't really get where you're going with this. Oh, yeah, what was the point that you're trying to prove here?
I was just like, now it's a DPS. Instead of it just being like a DPS problem, right, where the one DPS is power creeping, it's now a DPS plus support combo, like a 2-character package with their light cones that's now setting the damage ceiling. And so now it's like getting only one part isn't enough. You want to get 2 of them. And so it even makes it more predatory because now it's like you need the dynamic duo.
Let's pause.
To reach like that damage ceiling.
Hold up. Take a second. I need to add somebody else to the call. Yeah, give me 1 second. We're gonna
Is
get
this car smack?
Yeah, we're getting God smack in here real quick. We're gonna make this a 4-way. Also, I really need to piss, so I'll be right back, and then just chat. Go ahead, and entertain them. I'll be right back. Just give me a second.
You're lucky I'm low energy, man. I didn't have my coffee this morning. I forgot it.
Bro, it's 2 a.m. and I wanted to play Xenon Zone Zero, and here I am.
Hey, just get your account manager to play for you, man. All good.
You can't do that.
What do you mean you can't? Isn't that what happens
That's
90% of the time anyways?
Nah, I'm gonna make a guide. That's why.
Oh, you need to make a guide. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, guide maker.
Yes, sir.
Do you think we're considered Eastern CCs?
At this point, I don't even know, bro. Has the whole thing been settled, by the way?
The whole thing, the whole Eastern CC thing. Yeah, I think it's just like stale. I don't think there's like any point talking about
Oh,
it. Everyone's done all their hollows. Yeah, it's
okay.
like
Just rocket
yeah.
in the sun, just went away. Okay, okay. That's
I guess
great.
I guess Smack and Tech brought it up today. In the
Oh, there we go. There we go. Now I can hear y'all. Yo,
Oh, what's up, man?
Yo.
All right,
Yo.
I'm back. All right, yo, what's good, Smack? What you want to say?
I'm in the gym right now, but I had to get this off my chest. Yo, Saint, how's that debate going, my guy? You've been arguing with Pokey for an hour and a half.
We've really been going that long already. Yeah, no, I think it's I think we're getting a lot of points out. I think we're airing a lot of this stuff. I think it's
I think
getting.
y'all have gotten absolutely nowhere. And you know why? Because neither one of y'all are willing to give anything to the other side. It's exactly why I said a civil discussion is where it should go. You address your point civilly. If the other person doesn't bend the knee, then you move the fuck on.
Yep.
It's that simple, guys. I'm saying. I just want you to understand, brother. Like sometimes you can't like convince the other side to bend. It's like it's what it is. But this whole like y'all aren't going hard enough. You see, it don't get you nowhere.
Yep.
But basically, brother, I mean, Wuthering Waves, hell, just to throw my 2 cents in there, you got to pull on Yinlin to make Xiang Liao good. You got to pull on Camillea's new support Rokia if you really want to make her pay at the tippity top of the meta. Now they got what's it called? The Pirate Boy coming in for Shang Li. They're also selling supports to make the DPS flourish too. Now you don't need them, just like Pokey said. But if you want to pay them at the tippity top of the meta, you're gonna have to pick up those premium units. It's like we're now arguing things that are problematic inside of the entire gacha space.
Yeah,
You understand what I'm saying?
What I'd say about that, Smack, is that we've already seen like Carlotta, Jeja, like those teams have perfect synergy with those two characters have perfect synergy with each other, right?
Sure,
And it's
sure.
It's not like content in the end game has been balanced around their performance. Because right now, Carlotta teams with Jeja are clearing the middle tower in like sub 1 minute, and you're just playing for fun. They're clearing in sub 1 minute, and you have
Correct.
2. So it's not like the devs are balancing the content around the performance of the highest level teams like they are doing in HSR, and that's what's leaving all the older members of the roster in the dust.
That's a fair point. And here's the thing. I would argue that obviously Wuthering Waves power creep problem is 8 million times better than Wuthering Waves, but they're still going, hey, this is the premium lice limited character. She works perfect with Carlotta. Sure, it would be nice if you pulled for her, wouldn't it? You know, it's still to a degree going to be that predatory thing that we talk about. It's just better. But at the end of the day, saying I think you and Pokey are getting nowhere. You know, he has his firm beliefs and you have your firm beliefs. You know, and at the end of the day, Tech wants to finish the Wuthering Wave story. Y'all aren't getting anywhere, brother.
Hey, I've been enjoying. To be honest, Mike, I was letting them talk like this because I was exactly with you, bro. This is why a civil discussion will always trump just yelling at each other, man.
It's easy to do the third party. Oh, why is he doing this? But then you get in there and you're like, oh, damn, this motherfucker got some resilience. He ain't letting it go.
Yeah.
Hey, you're totally right, man.
Yeah.
I think the one conclusion anybody can make from this call is that we're both stubborn motherfuckers when it comes to our opinions on things.
And both intelligent. And you both have good coherence and you have logical points to back what you're saying. But like I said, you can't force a motherfucker to just agree with you. It's especially every man has their pride, man.
I also think that this conversation immediately wasn't about getting to the truth. I think it was getting a massive W over each other from the first minute, which just isn't gonna fucking work, man.
And you got Pokey in here like mediating that shit like a boxing match. Like, oh, okay, hold on, let him talk. Let him talk. I'm in here working out, it's pure entertainment for the viewers, but I'm in here getting a workout like these motherfuckers. Let me get in here and say my 2 cents, man. Hey, y'all have at it, man. I got to get back to it.
I bet you're PR into this in the background, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
PR.
bro.
Much love to you.
Peace. All right, cool. Continue fighting.
I mean, like, we can kind of start wrapping it up because it's
I mean, Gacha Smack coming in here sounded like he was in the middle, like fucking, I guess, a workout or wherever the fuck he was in the middle of.
He was like moaning and panting, and like, I'm like, okay, like, crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's the reality. I think what needs to happen is, and I do truly mean this, I just think Mr. Pokey needs to make a free-to-play account and play the game free-to-play. You know?
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Done.
absolutely.
Coming.
Get that shit
Sold.
done and prove everybody wrong or prove everybody right. It's up to you, man. That's good content for you. And then,
All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just let's get it done, boys. Also, keep
Okay.
my cat.
Okay, wait. Yeah, it's really good. Oh, just one last thing before I just move on.
Sure.
I just feel that the importance of a support in Honkai Star Rail is just that important. And we can debate or disagree whether or not follow up is like Robin's best comp, but like in Honkai Star, it is Honkai support real, and your entire team building is built on the premise of having this support. The understanding is that if players are chasing for like clearing endgame, they want to clear endgame, they would know the inherent value of putting for support, and I think it would also bring them a lot of value to the account, make them more fun, try more teams, make them feel it. Right? It might not be the DPS, but I think support is what ties Honkai Star together. So if you want to say Honkai Star, they pump out too many broken supports, then yeah, sure, man. I think there's just way too much to keep up. But I think the main issue is with ultimately the DPS. And the thing is, the DPS without those supports is gonna be a bit scuffed. You're much better off just running version 1 DPS with like your version whatever supports instead of a new DPS without the supports.
Yeah, and I completely agree with your whole viewpoint, right? That supports are the most broken thing in the game. In that, if you're not investing in the newest supports, you're basically, it is pretty much a fact. If you're not investing in the new supports, you're gonna have a shitty, terrible time of the end game content. Yep. And, I think one of the big cruxes of your argument is going ahead, making those wise investment decisions to, pull the supports when they come up because you know the power level that they're going to provide. But I think really it's just you're going to end up with a situation, right, where you pull Sparkle and then Sunday releases 7 months later.
So, okay, right? Pause. This Sunday Sparkle thing, I need to say one thing. At E0S0, Sunday is hella skill point negative, okay? Only at E0S1, Sunday gives you more skill point. I just need to clear this right the hell now. Because a lot of people are saying, like, Sunday is like way better than Sparkle and all that kind of stuff. I guarantee you at E0S0, sometimes you would probably still want Sparkle because the skill point is just non-existent. But yeah, anyways.
So let's do this real quick, okay? This is how I'm going to be handling conversation debates with people who I care about in the future. Let's make this very simple. I think we can all agree, more than power creep, more than what unit's better than whatever unit, there's one universal topic that encapsulates all of this into a whole, and that is Honkai Star Rail in a good spot or not?
I like it.
Pokey says yes.
I like it.
Saint Tontas says no. All right.
Sure.
So real quick, I want you to explain to us why you think it's in a bad spot.
I think this kind of leads into that whole Genshin clip you were playing earlier, right? I was talking about how I believe that the game was slowly becoming more and more and more unplayable, just based off the fact that there's always this impending pressure to continually pull just to be able to keep up with the level of the content.
Now, real quick, let's add an addendum. That's not true. And the reason, because you'd be very specific, it's the end game content that you want to keep up with. The casual experience, you don't need that.
Absolutely right. In the story, you're going with level 70 characters under leveled, and you're doing just fine, right? It doesn't matter in the story. But I think it's just when there's been a baseline set of the expectations that you have from the 1.0 MOCs and even maybe some of the early 2.0 ones, right? Before the inflation started really setting in to match the damage levels of the newer characters. It's just the game, especially when compared to prior Hoyoverse titles, I mean, and that's why I brought up Genshin Impact specifically, where, you cleared a team in the 1.0 Abyss, and then you just keep investing in them, literally free to play, just through, the artifacts, and then you're still able to clear with that exact same team in the most recent version of the Abyss. And if Genshin is able to have such a high level of revenue, still able to sell characters, still able to provide, content worth pulling through the characters without this absurd level of power scaling that we've seen in Honkai Star Rail, it's just why is that almost like a regression in Hoyoverse's character design and combat design, where you literally have a game that's been doing it just when Shiori came out in fucking 4.5. Nobody felt the need to. Nobody felt like they had to pull Chiori under weapon to clear the Abyss. You just went in and did it with all your other shit. And I get Pokey's point about there's not as much skill expression. You only have 3 buttons, but it's also do we really want the skill expression to be whether or not you lose a fucking 50-50 and can pull the character in the patch, or whether or not you lose the 75-25? That's where most of the skill expression in the game fucking feels
Very fair point.
And it just feels awful when you lose the 50-50 for a character that is let's just say mandatory, right? And so now it's either spend and get the mandatory character or just get fucked. And that to me is what makes the game feel so much more unplayable in the long run, because now it's you need to do this RNG dependent thing to clear the end game content, when in the past you were using Blade Jing Liu, using some goofy ass teams and clearing. When now it's just they've made the requirements so high at a baseline that it just feels like shit for anybody that's not like, dick deep in the meta.
Sure. Okay. So, Mr. Pokey, you think
Yeah.
it's in a good spot?
Yeah.
Why would you say it's
Yeah,
in
I
a good
think it's
spot?
a good spot. Yeah. I first want to say, like, back in the past, you will also feel this if you didn't pull for the new DPS. Like, players that didn't pull for Jingliu, they would still feel like shit. But just a curious sign. I feel like for me personally, there's not too much point of me trying to say whether it's good or not, because people are just gonna say my account is unreadable, unaccount will. So I would feel like the best explanation of why I feel it's fun for me is I will try to start a free-to-play account and kind of just see how this goes, because it's pointless trying to say if there's power creep or like the players cannot keep up and you're kind of forced to pull, the feeling of losing 50-50, it's irrelevant. So I'll just see where this goes. Maybe 6 months later, hey, you might be right. Power creep is so strong, I want to quit my free-to-play account. Then I lose, right?
I think
If
this is gonna
not,
be
then-
like a I think this is gonna be like a delayed impact thing, right? Because I think the point that you brought up when you were talking with Tectone about why it's in a good spot, you talked about the new players, right? They can just pull on the Herta and say fuck you to all the old irrelevant, like fuck you, Silverwolf, we're never pulling you, and just pull on all the new stuff moving forward. But then you're going to
Sure.
get into that situation with the free-to-play account, right? Maybe you lose a 50-50, and then you can't pull the next hot topic in 6 months, and now the Herta and whoever else you pulled her with in the early stages where you had all that income is now becoming more and more irrelevant. A lot of people are rumoring that Fei Zhao and Robin are going to become irrelevant in like 3.1 or 3.2, and that Super Break is slowly going to start being phased out. And so all of those free-to-play players that have started, at differing times in 2.0 are going to start feeling that pain. As the advancements start happening, I think at the very start, it's going to feel great, right? Because you can just pull everything new. You have all the resources to get all of the new shiny stuff. And then
Absolutely.
6 months down the road, that's when the pain is going to start setting in. And that's Pokey. That's where a lot of players are at right now. And for veteran players, it's even worse because they spent all of their free resources, right? You're going to be able to take all your Bellabog, your Zhangzhou Lofu, your Pentecote Jades from grinding, or I guess that your account managers are going to grind on the free-to-play account, and you can just use them to pull on all the new 3.0 banners. Everybody spent all those Jades on shit like Blade and Jing Liu, and now they're just like, well, this shit's fucking useless now. It's basically just wasted investment. All that fuel, right? All that free Trailblazer fuel, the red juice, the cola. They spent it all on artifacts for characters that suck balls now, and you're gonna be able to spend all of those resources, all that shit, on stuff that's like brand new and good.
So here's what I
Yeah,
want to
but
challenge you on, St. Jotas. I want you to demonstrate, of the big four gotchas, what issues Honkai Star Rail has that you believe is exclusive to Honkai Star Rail, that it doesn't share with any of its competitors.
Absurd HP inflation that has made the
Genshin.
damage multipliers and kits of older characters absolutely worthless.
So Genshin and Zenless Zone Zero both have that.
It to as high of a degree though, I think you were showing like a 15x multiplier on the HP.
I haven't seen it, but Genshin is very bullet spongy. Genshin is very bullet spongy. It's always bullet spongy. Not saying that makes it right. Not saying that makes it right.
I guess the argument that I would have for that is there are literally like international teams, right? Just all like I guess the 4 stars are C6,
Sure.
the Child, Bennett, Zhangling, and I forget like fucking Kazuha team. All characters released in the first version of the game, 1.0 to 1.9 or wherever the fuck it went, and that team is still clearing end game content.
For sure. For sure.
And that's the thing. That's where I think if you have a full 1.0x team in Honkai Star Rail, I genuinely don't think you can clear unless you have another team on the other side like Super Break or Follow Up carrying its dead body across the line within the 10 cycle limit.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I think that's the differentiation between the two. Your 1.0 team from Genshin will still hold its own and still like carry one side by itself. And that just can't happen in Honkai Star Rail because of the HP and damage inflation.
So here's the other thing I want to really talk about Genshin Impact. People say, oh, well, you can still clear the end game with 1.0 characters. Now, is that because the game is properly balanced, or is that because the end game is so fucking bad it's made for retarded children that anybody can beat it? And do we think that's a positive?
A little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah, because people always say, oh, it's so good because you can clear with anybody. Yeah, guys, I mean, an autistic, brain-damaged, one-armed, limp dick fucking 19-year-old could fucking do that shit while probably multitasking watching Boku no Pico at the same fucking time. Doesn't mean that it's fucking good now, does it?
I think there can definitely be a middle ground in the equation, right? Where it doesn't feel like a 1.0 team literally feels outclassed in every single way and has no competitive edge, even with like the proper environment. And the obviously the situation in Genshin, right? I think there have been quite a few difficult spiral abysses, specifically the ones with like the constipated beasts. And those guys like hit like fucking trucks. They'll
Please
like
tell
break
me
a
that's not what they're called. Is that what they're actually called? They're called.
they're consecrated beasts.
Oh, okay.
And
I was about to
yeah,
say,
they'll
holy
they'll
fuck.
break a Zhongli shield in one hit, and you actually have to dodge, or you'll get like fucked up by them. And then you obviously have like the good old like Magu Kenki like Ice Samurai bastard, where if you play Bennett against that team, you'll apply Pyro to yourself, and he'll slam down and one shot you if you don't dodge an attack. He will like literally kill you in one hit because
sure.
he melts you.
For sure.
And so it's like they have like different levels of like difficulty that they introduce once in a while, but it's not like a consistent thing for sure. Like they sometimes just flip flop between easy ass, brainless, just hyper bloom your way through. I mean, you can just hyper bloom through anything.
Yep.
Like they literally added hyper bloom to make the game easier, right? And more free to play friendly in a sense because those teams are fucking brainless to build. Just have ER on one person and then whatever the fuck else you want on the team, and you'll clear the content.
And obviously,
or EM on one person.
I've bitched about Genshin Impact Endgame for years, and people were saying, "Well, you wanted the content to be harder." Yeah, of course, but I didn't want the difficulty of Genshin Impact to be. Now this unit has 1 million more HP. I wanted it to be. Now these units attack faster and deal more damage. You have to play more.
The
precisely.
consecrated beast, you might actually like them, Techie, if you ever do. Maybe you just fucking boot up the game one time while they're in the abyss, and then you get to see what fighting them is like, because they can actually be a bit of a problem for. I think for a brainless player, they would be a bit of a problem, especially when there's two of them, and they're just like they're tag teaming you.
Yeah, I just simply don't believe you. I use a shield and then I win the game. Yep, I put on a shield and I win.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I zoned out because it was Genshin, but
Yeah, absolutely,
anyways.
it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell I was saying. I do feel in Honkai Star Rail, getting these team, even if it's old units, I think calling them irrelevant is just not a fair take. And saying that they are getting dragged across the line by support is also not a fair take, because supports are basically dragging everybody across the line. And I feel that if people put for those units and then they wanted to make it work, that's part of the reason why team building works in Honkai Star Rail, because you can't build a team without the set units, right? So it's like, sure, I'm good.
I mean, I think
Yeah,
I
but-
think the thing is that I don't think Honkai Star Rail used to be supports dragging the characters across the finish line, but now it is them dragging across.
Yeah, and that's because, right? I mean, we said it ourselves.
There was
like,
no supports to drag though. There was no such thing as Ranmei. There was no such thing as Robin. There was basically just Pella and Tingyun.
And introducing characters like that, right? Setting the standard. I think you said Rod May was where power creep began. Like setting a standard with the character like of that high level strength, and then following up with Robin, and then following up with Sunday. I'm just not even going to count Sparkle in the situation because like I think she kind of sucks. And it's just when that was like the standard that's been set at the end of 1.0, and then that's the damage standard that they're moving forward with. I think it's fair to say that supports are dragging characters across the finish line, but I think it's also fair to say that some characters are a lot less heavy than others. I think your Blades and Jing Liu's are like 50, 70 ton weights, and your Fei Zhao, right, your Topazes, they're maybe like 10, maybe 5, and it's a lot. There's a lot less dragging that needs to be done.
Sure, I agree with analogy. Yeah, sure.
So, what do you think, St. Onas, that HSR needs to do to fix this issue?
I think that honestly, the game needs some sort of like fucking. I'm gonna be honest, like some sort of like leap system, and they've already done it in Honkai, where they have like older units that are complete dog shit, like unusable, and they gain like some sort of special augment upgrade that like literally transforms them into like a new unit that needs to like reinvest in their skills and stuff. But there's just so many characters in 1.0 that are left in the dust, like the 50, 70 kilogram Blades and Jing Liu's, that literally need either some kind of crazy new relic set. Like the fucking Scholar Lost and Erudition's not gonna fucking cut it, okay?
So how about they level up 10 more times, and then each one of them gains a fourth trait that makes them as balanced as everything else. So that would make Honkai Star a game for you?
Yeah, like just something that brings up their baseline power level to the point where it just doesn't feel like you wasted money or time or jades on the character. Because so many characters feel like you actually wasted something on them. And it just feels awful, especially knowing that every new character is just going to be released and they've just been increasing the power level ever since.
Okay. And then Mr. Pokey, you think that the game is completely fine as is?
I think they can add on improvements. Yeah, it's great.
You sound very sleepy.
I'm sorry, guys. It's
Bro,
2:37.
opposite sides of the globe. I'm wide awake now.
You all good, man. I think we can probably leave this at that. This is a very controversial, nuanced thing that we can talk about, and it mainly just depends on chat. What do you think? And there's a lot of different ways to tackle this. I'm sure we could. I mean, I barely even said anything. I had so much to add on, but yeah, I don't really want to drag it too much. But we will talk about this a little bit more later. But yeah, how do y'all feel about Honkai Star Rail? Do you think it's in a good spot? Do you think it's not? What issues do you want to be solved? It's great to talk about these things. St. Louis, Mr. Pokey, I appreciate both of y'all coming on here. And
Yeah, totally.
keeping it as cordial
Yeah.
as possible. And let's talk again soon, okay?
Absolutely.
Bye.
Sounds great, man.
Bye-bye. All right. That was great. Jesus.